and welcome back to the Rawkode Academy. I'm your host, David Flanagan, and today we have another great episode coming of Rawkode Live. Rawkode Live is the show where we take a look at open source software within the cloud native and Kubernetes space, and hopefully show you enough cool stuff to help simplify your Kubernetes journey. Because let's face it, this stuff is mighty hard. All right. Remember, we love comments. So if you're watching us now, feel free to say hello in the comments section. As we move through today's episode and we're playing with the technology, take a moment to ask your questions. Don't leave them lingering in your mind because you'll forget. We recommend you type them in as soon as possible. Today, we are taking a look at DevSpace from Loft. It is a tool to help you ship, build, develop Kubernetes applications faster and easier. And today's guest today is Leon from the Loft team. Hey there, how's it going?
Pretty good, thanks. It's a beautiful day, surprisingly so. Yeah, looking forward to the session.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're in Amsterdam, right? And I'm in Glasgow. I think we have
Yeah,
quite similar weather patterns, which is usually cloudy,
probably. Yeah.
yeah, cloudy and rainy and windy. I don't know, but today has been quite nice here too, actually. So that's good. Uh, okay, so for anyone that doesn't know you, hasn't spoken to you before, can you please say hello and give us a little brief introduction, please?
I would love to. So, my name is Leon. I'm based in Amsterdam, and I'm a DevRel for Loft. And if you know me from any kind of like social events or something, you probably best know me as the Chief Karaoke Officer. So, if we ever are at the same conference, I promise we will go to karaoke.
Well, we are going to be at the same conference, right?
We are. I booked it for kubectl already. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, we are just what 2 and a little bit weeks away, 2 weeks and a few days. Exciting
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
stressful. But yeah, I can't wait. So yeah, karaoke is going to be awesome. Okay, today we're taking a look at DevSpace. This is a relatively new project to me. I wasn't that familiar about it, or I hadn't been aware of it until a couple of weeks ago. I think you tweeted something and you shared something, and I thought, hey, is this looks cool? Like we need to do something on this. So can you just tell us like what's the TLDR for DevSpace?
Yeah, sure. To me, it's easier to say what it does rather than what it is. So basically, what we're trying to do with DevSpace is make the development cycles faster. So if you're developing for Kubernetes, then there's all kinds of stuff that you need to be aware of, putting stuff in a container and everything. And most developers, they just want to focus on developing. So we're trying to just abstract everything away from you, make it easy and fast. And I don't want to go too deep into details because I hope we can, like learn by doing.
Yeah. I always find this is one of these really common questions that I get all the time. You know, when you go to conferences and people are doing, we're all on the same journey, but all at different stages of that journey. And it's like, yeah, I'm used to developing locally and I just install all the tools and it's fine. And then people move towards containers and it's like, okay, well, I spin up some Docker containers and I work against it. But we're now at
Yeah,
this stage, I feel, where it's not just I've adopted Kubernetes. It's I've refactored my monolithic application to a half a dozen or 2 dozen or 20 hundred services. I have a Kubernetes
I
cluster. I have service meshes. I have all these things. How do I develop locally? And you're like, good
you
question.
don't.
This is not a solved thing yet, but there are tools to make it a little bit easier. And this is where DevSpace
Yeah,
comes in, right? This is the market. This is
exactly.
the problem that it really wants to help us with. So.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. We
And
have
then
we
again, I just have to say it's not gonna solve like every problem that you have. Like I don't even know like service meshes, and if you have like something that's super distributed, you might get it to work. I probably could point you to the people who can help you with that. But yeah, there's like for now, this is like tackling the most common issues that people have, not every single one.
awesome.
Oh, hey Marino.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of comments going on in the chat. People are very excited. So awesome. Okay, well, we're going to take a look at DevSpace. So let's make sure that the screen share is all up in business. Um, I guess we could share
Yeah,
with the audience that we were having I was having some Kubernetes trouble prior to us going live, and I couldn't get a cluster to work. Go figure. Pretty standard.
well,
Uh,
I'm gonna
uh,
say right now that it's you can use DevSpace locally or on a remote cluster. It works the same way. So luckily that we had some backups.
Yeah, well, we can definitely try both, right? I've got a Minikube cluster, which is the one I'm currently looking at right now. But I do have a Civil Cloud or a Civil cluster that we can switch to it and maybe try and see what that remote experience looks like. We also have the DevSpace website here. So it's got some nice little kind of walkthroughs here on the homepage. And we're just going to kind of get started on this. I think we'll just kind of learn this by doing, which is my favorite way. So I hope that's okay for you.
Yeah, same. Of course, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so
So
the first thing you need is the CLI that will make things easier. Well, actually, you need it to run it.
yeah, we've got a nice graphic
Yeah,
that
this
maybe
is
we could go over this in a moment. But let's see
I
if we get the CLI first.
yeah.
Yeah. Download
Would
DevSpace.
you should you do you want me to tell you where to find things, or do you want to like explore for yourself a little bit?
I kind of prefer exploring, and I know you're going to be sitting there
Oh.
cringing as I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah,
No,
consider
this is excellent because this is how we like improve our docs, I think.
exactly. It's a litmus test for
Yeah.
documentation. It's like, you know, how long is it going to take me to find the thing that I need? But it looks like I just brew installed this thing, so I'm not feeling
Yeah,
too worried about that.
should be fine. It's not that huge, but I did see what happened when you tried to start that mini cube, so had me a bit worried.
Well,
But it's been good.
I've been in this office space for a little under a year now, and the people that provide internet to the office space, they charge extortionate amounts, like it was the '90s and internet was this new thing. So I told them to go away, and I run off of a 5G router, and I have done all year, and it's just been perfect. But I know at some point I'm going to feel the pain of using a 5G router. Okay, we have DevSpace. So let's maybe go back to that image and kind of try and understand what it's doing. So this is the
Yeah.
how does it work? And I see things like
Hmm.
Docker, Canonical, I see registry, I see YAML. So what what is the starting point for taking a project and using DevSpace against it?
Yeah. So luckily, those are numbers, so that helps a little bit figuring out what happens first. You usually you start with a project that is already containerized. So you have a Docker file, and you probably also already need like at least a Kubernetes manifest, or you can use Customize or Helm charts. So that's kind of the prerequisites to really get starting with DevSpace.
Okay.
And then yeah, so I'm just going to kind of rephrase this image. So when you initialize a project to use with DevSpace, it will create a DevSpace YAML for you. So, I mean, like YAML, right? We're doing Kubernetes, so obviously we're going to have a YAML. DevSpace, so the CLI. When I say DevSpace, I'm probably going to refer to the tool, the CLI, now from now on. So DevSpace will look for this DevSpace YAML, read the config, and then build a image using whatever build tool you say it should. It will then push the image to the registry. Maybe you can also say that you want to skip pushing to registries, and it will just build that in memory, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Then it will check your kube-context to understand like which Kubernetes cluster to use. This is where you can like use a local one or a remote one. And then it will deploy your project to that cluster with Helm charts or, as I said, Customize or Kubernetes manifests. And this is kind of the basic workflow. But then DevSpace also has this dev mode that does a bunch of cool stuff. That is where we try to improve kind of like the development cycle. So there's stuff like hot reloading, where if you make changes in your source code, we're not gonna rebuild the image and we're not gonna redeploy the container. Instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna mount the changes directly into the running container. So you will instantly see the changes. It can start a SSH server in your pod, so in your application, that you can like SSH into the container and do whatever stuff you need to do. It can start a terminal for you automatically through like a configuration in DevSpace. And yeah, so this is all like stuff that we could, well, hopefully we'll be able to explore.
Awesome. I mean, the only challenge there is me. So hopefully I don't break things too much. All right, so I'm going to try and summarize that just to make sure that I have a really good mental model and understanding
Yeah.
of what DevSpace is doing. But it sounds like I just take my existing project that I'm working on, whether that be a monolith or a microservice, like whatever. I added devspace.yaml. We don't know what that looks like yet, but I'm sure we'll be writing one of them in just a moment. From that configuration, the DevSpace CLI is capable of building the image using whatever tools I already use, optionally pushing it to a registry, and then using my current kube-context to deploy that to a Kubernetes cluster. And you mentioned that it has a dev mode. We see that on the right hand side here. And this has given us that convenience features that we're starting to see more and more of, which really helps us get that short feedback loop for developing our applications. Hot reloading, so important. Like, who really wants to sit and wait for a Docker
Yes.
image build to work every single time they change a bit of their code?
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah, and the local
Well, I
host.
guess
Oh,
people who are bored in an office love when there's a Docker build and you can like go and have a coffee and chat with someone for half an hour and then come back.
or jump on a wheelie chair and have a sword fight. I don't know. Whatever your preference is.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. So hot reloading, local host access port forwarding, all the logging that I need, and then I haven't seen this last feature working well on any other tool yet, so I'm very excited. Not, I don't even know if we have a right application to try and debug something, but debugging I've always
Now,
found
what I have not even tried that debugging feature, but I guess we'll find out.
But yeah, awesome. Okay, I'm going to click on initialize a project because I'm assuming this is going to guide us through getting set up.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
a
looks
good
like
way to get started.
I like that I can just use one of these quick starts. I'm going to try and make my life
Yes,
a little bit easier. Let's do Node.js. Um, and then maybe we'll see how things are going and we can always try Go. But I think maybe Node.js is a good starting
sure.
point. We need to get
Yeah,
Rust added to this.
I was gonna discourage you from using Ruby and ASP.NET. That was the only thing that I was like, maybe don't do that because I think there's some like I couldn't get them to run on my machine probably because I have an M1. So I think we haven't updated those yet.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not very comfortable with those languages, so I'm quite happy to avoid them. All right, let's see what we have here in this example application. Do I trust? Sure, go for it. So this, all right. So this is just an Express application that's going to throw some HTML right down to the browser.
Yeah,
That's fine.
exactly.
We have a Docker. Oh, sorry, my font tiny because I was doing some other stuff today. Yeah,
Yeah,
it should be okay.
that's good.
Now we have a Docker file, just using Node Alpine, doing a quick copy, npm install, like pretty much what we'd expect. And
That's pretty
that's it.
bare.
Yeah.
Yep,
I don't see a
no surprises
devspace.yaml,
there.
so I'm assuming we're going to, there's a command for that. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So the quick start is like just the project. So we're gonna walk you through like that is like probably what you already have, and then the rest of it is like, okay, now you're introducing DevSpace.
Yeah, that's good. Like, don't make any assumptions, which I like. So, it's detected JavaScript. Oh, how do I want to deploy? Let's
Yeah,
just do a
so
quick.
for the quick start projects, we do have Helm charts that we have in a remote repository. If you feel super adventurous, we could try one of the others, but then you would have to like actually write them yourself, I believe. So the easiest is to use the Helm chart. I think it's also in the docs. I'm not quite sure, but I think I recently changed them to just like walk you through the actual like what should you choose at every step of the way. Yeah.
Yeah, you have. Okay. Well, let's start with Helm,
Because
and then if we do the Go one,
I
maybe
was getting
we'll
pretty
feel
confused.
adventurous. So
Yeah, let's see what the Helm yeah, what this does for us for the easy start. Yeah. So we also detect that it's a quick start project, which makes the setup a bit more streamlined. And then yeah, we want to develop because we want to see all the cool dev mode stuff. Yeah, we have a Docker file there already. And since you're local, I would probably suggest skipping.
yeah, I don't have to
And yeah,
want to deal with credentials to remote container
yeah,
registry,
exactly.
so we'll just avoid that for now.
Hmm.
All right. So this is telling us
So
we
yeah,
can use the namespace if we want to. I'm just going to use default, which is my context. I don't think we need to worry about that. But I believe now we can do dev space dev. And oh, Yeah, yes, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So there's a warning that is like, are you sure? Because you might be on a shared cluster. You might like be on the kind of dev cluster where you're sharing that with other people. So
Yeah.
just want to make sure you're not breaking anything.
Is DevSpace specifically targeted at dev clusters and not production clusters, or is that something that you think it's going to open up to maybe production clusters? Or
You can use it for production clusters as well. There's another command that's devspace deploy, which would then not start the dev mode, but just deploy your application, like kind of like you would on prod. We can check that out, and you can use it in prod. You can use devspace to do some CI/CD stuff for you. Ideally, you would use devspace for everything, so it really behaves the same way everywhere, and it actually manages your environment no matter whether it's like dev or staging or prod. Um, but yeah, I mean, like most of our users use it for development because the dev mode is really the thing that stands out, I guess. I see that Oleg said hi, which is great because Oleg is one of the engineers at Loft. So if we have a question, maybe he can help us out.
awesome, always good to have support in the chat. Uh,
Yeah.
so I suspected I was in a container here because my prompt changed. I typed "who am I?" It says root. So yeah, DevSpace Dev has
Yeah.
spun up a container and then put me in an interactive shell. Okay.
Exactly. You are in the container right now. I opened the terminal for you. You can see probably, yeah. So there's a couple of things that that DevSpace does in the background, which we can look at later in the YAML. But for now, all you need to know is that we are in the container now. We have not started the web server yet. That's why it says like, this is how you can work with it. If you want, you can, yeah, check out the container some more, or you can run npm start to see the application.
Yeah, I just wanted to poke around. I'm loving
No,
the sleep command,
fair enough.
of course, as pid one. Like, why not?
Just,
Uh, I
yeah,
can see the sync thing, assuming this is some sort of file system. We have an SSH server and a tunnel, and then screen. So yeah, okay, cool. Let's
everything you need to pry open the container. So yeah, it also automatically opens this like beautiful web page and then tells you what you could do now to try out the functionalities of DevSpace.
hold on a minute. How did it open a web page?
We can look inside the DevSpace YAML to do it. If you're asking me how does it happen inside,
Yeah.
like under the hood, I don't know that. But if you open the DevSpace YAML, there's a command for that. But yeah, you would have to probably leave the container to check it out. But
Yeah,
it only does it once.
just don't know how it did that. I mean, DevSpace must have detected that a new port was opened or something. I'm not sure.
Actually, it holds. I'm not 100% sure, but it does like a regular check on. You provide a URL and it just does a regular poll on it, and as soon as it gets like a non 500, I want to say response, it will then open a browser and display that page.
Ah, there you go. Okay. Okay, so we now have a devspace.yaml. We can see we've got a version and a name. We've got something called a pipeline. We've got something called an image and
Yeah,
something called a deployment. Yeah,
there's a
let's.
lot of stuff happening there. Let's look at the images first, maybe, because this is kind of the order of things. Yeah, so we basically say we have a bunch of images, and this image is named app. And then we tell it like, okay, this is how you have to name the image. I mean, if you want to push it to a registry, then this is where you would put the full URL with the username and the name of the image, and then where to find the Docker file. And I think if you want to use a different building engine, then you can provide that as a property. I would have to check the docs myself, which I am doing right now.
Well, we
Yeah,
have
you can build
autocomplete
Docker
from
Panico or something else.
VS
Aha,
Code, so
even better.
Yeah.
I did not even know that.
Uh, yeah. Well, down here, I don't know. I know it's really difficult to see that, but it actually detects the
Yeah, no,
JSON
I see
schema
it.
as a DevSpace YAML, which was my first indication that I could probably complete this. And yeah, looks like we can. Nice. I like it when projects publish the JSON schema and it just works with VS Code because I spend most of my day in VS Code, so I want that to be a good experience.
Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, we can check deployments next. I'm going to explain pipelines later, but it's not super important right now. So here we have the list of deployments that we can use, and again we have like a thing named app, and we're saying right now that we're using a Helm chart, and here we're loading this from our own repo, the charts DevSpace sh repo, and it's called component chart. And like all the other quick starts use the same chart. Can probably look into it to see what exactly gets deployed. And then we put in some values, namely what the name of the image is and which port we need to open to access the website. And you can use DevSpace deploy, so the DevSpace deploy command, if you only want to deploy this without opening the dev mode. So you could conceivably just run DevSpace deploy on a prod environment and then just deploy it like it is.
Okay. And then I'm assuming this dev key is how we hook up the reloading and
Dev
stuff.
mode, yeah. This is the interesting part. So we can like, yeah, let's run from it from the top, I guess. So basically in dev mode, we're doing a bunch of stuff to the container. We're modifying it in a lot of ways. So the first thing we need to do is we have to like select the right container or the right pod. Let's say the right container. There's a couple of ways you can do that. We can use an image selector. So basically you would select the first image, or the first container that has that's using this image. I think you can also use a label selector and probably some other ways to do that as well. Again, we can refer to the docs later. Want to get excited. This dev image in line 50, that's a pretty cool feature. So I said that you could deploy your container to production, but then if you're developing, you might want to have a slightly different container, maybe one that has like some kind of dev tools installed that you wouldn't want to have on prod. So here we would be replacing the container image with this image that we provide a dev image. And that's just optimized for development purposes. So then we are not using the original image anymore. We're using this one. And this image also doesn't have the source code. We have to like sync it to this dev container, which we're doing in the next couple lines. This is where the hot reloading happens as well. We're basically saying like, okay, copy everything from this path, put it into the container. You can also exclude things like Docker ignore, for example. If you're using dev image, this is super important. Otherwise, you just end up with a container with nothing in it.
Okay.
Yeah, here we are opening a terminal, and there's a bunch of magic happening in DevSpace start. We can take a look at that. I have not yet, so I would probably be learning something if we take a look at that.
Well, I actually
Yeah.
opened the autocomplete here because I was really hoping to see some
Mm-hmm.
sort of make target option where I could just maybe. Cause I don't know. I'm not a big fan of like, arbitrary scripts lying around. Maybe supporting some like
So, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, make target would be cool there.
Okay, Oleg, I hope you're listening, right? This is a feature request now. Yeah, and then we can inject the SSH server into the container, so you can either with your IDE or just with your shell
Yep.
connect to the container. We also, for the quick start, we are creating some proxy commands. So basically, if you run DevSpace or kubectl inside the container, it will then be proxied to your host machine. Gotta be super careful with that because everyone who has access to the dev container could then execute these commands on your host machine, on your local laptop or something.
Yeah.
And then we can also do some port forwarding there. Not quite sure what the 9229 port is for. The 3000 is obviously for the web app.
Maybe the Node.js debugger.
We'll find. That could be.
I'm not sure. I
I
guessing.
guess we
Completely
could
guessing.
experiment with. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, finally, that line 72, that's the thing that opens the browser. And as I said, so it checks the status, and then other than 502 or 503. Okay, so as soon as usually it's like as soon as the application starts, it will then open the browser, as you've seen. So when we started when we ran DevSpace start, nothing happened. But as soon as you then ran npm start, that's when the web server actually got started, and that's when the browser opened.
Nice.
So this is the cool magic part, and the stuff that you see here is pretty much like the most used features in DevSpace, which is why they're all here. And we can
Okay.
talk about the others too if you want, or we can. What we haven't tried yet is to actually change some source code and see it just like change in the browser without
Yeah.
having to rebuild and everything.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, we should try and see what this kind of feedback loop is like for developers. I'll just add that. I mean, I think I was overcomplicating this. We could just do a command make thing, right? Like, we don't need a special pragma for a make target. So I take back my feature request. You're okay, Oleg. We do have a start script. Yeah, I think that's just for show to print dev space, but I guess you could run migration scripts and other things there. And I'm going to pull up the
Yeah.
browser with that local host on it.
Mm-hmm.
And let's change some text or something. So index.js. Oh, it tells you to edit the text. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, it tells you exactly what to do. But you don't have to follow it. Like you can change other stuff if you want to.
I mean, I am a terrible HTML and CSS person, but I mean, I could probably manage to do like style.
Oh, I would have just removed a line, but okay.
Well, we could try and make a red background, right? This is
Sure.
where I'm going to find out I don't even know how to do background colors. But
Okay, you need to save the file. You can now check the logs if you would like. In any case, you have to reload the browser to see the changes.
oh, you have to reload. Ah,
Yeah. Well done. Excellent.
yeah. I was
This
a
is not
designer in a past life, as you could tell.
yes, I was going to say this is not very eye friendly, but
No, okay.
well done.
We'll just go with the all black approach. Ta-da.
Uh,
Hello,
and you see
network.
this is pretty fast, so this is excellent.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I can see how that works. Russell is
Yeah,
playing his
and
dinosaur. Come on, Russell. The red wasn't that bad.
yeah, so one of the things also is that we need to use nodemon instead of running node because otherwise we would have to restart the node process all the time if we make a change. So nodemon will detect that there was a change and it will kind of like inside its own process restart the node process.
All right. Well, that was pretty easy.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're done now. It's pretty good.
All right. Bye. I'll see you
No.
later.
um, yeah, like we can talk a bit more about the other things in the DevSpace YAML that we haven't looked at yet.
Well,
Or if you have any specific questions, we can cover them as well. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. There's a few
And we can see
assumptions
the
that I want to
logs.
get out my head. So,
Sure.
firstly, this terminal we're in a thing. We saw this is running screen. So I'm assuming I could just drop this, and I actually expect this web application still. Oh no, it doesn't. Okay, that did end it. I thought that was
If
going to
you
run in the background. But...
you stop the process though, like you stop the web server, so that's why it's not here anymore.
Oh, but I thought because I was in a screen session.
I think the screen is for the. I actually don't know. You know what? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll just not do that anymore. All right. So when I leave the container, it shuts all down. I can go have my coffee, come back after lunch, and start it again. That's fine. And then we need to run the npm start.
Yeah.
We should be back in business. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And we could, for example, if you didn't replace the dev image, or if you didn't replace the image and just use the the image that we have, then you wouldn't need to start to run npm start even, because then we would use the actual production image that we built, and that automatically starts npm start. But you can still like do the hot reloading. That would still work. It's just that because we're using a dev image, it doesn't it doesn't use the Docker image that we looked at.
But you said if I run DevSpace deploy, then that just deploys with the
Not quite, not quite, because we still need to go to dev mode. So okay, if you open the DevSpace YAML,
yep,
yeah, and then we could remove the line 50 where we just commented out. So now we're not replacing the dev image anymore. We're just using the production image. You can run DevSpace dev, and then it would just open the browser, and we wouldn't have to run npm start because the entry point. Okay, interesting. The entry point would be npm start. That's interesting. What happened?
well, I may have broken it by running a deploy and killing it, and it might now. Oh no, it's trying to reach speak to red.
Oh, okay. That. Interesting. I did not have that issue when I tried it, but yeah, if you just use the. I guess you have to, if you're doing that, you have to probably change the image name everywhere. Because I think it's trying to build the image in the images part. So if you scroll up, there was this property called image, and or images, yeah, and that's where we built the image. So I guess we could just remove the host name and just call it, I don't know, DevSpace. Yeah, and then
change our dev image, our image selector.
Yeah, I don't know if we have to change it in the deployments part as well, but I guess we'll find out. Oh no, now it's trying to. Interesting. Well, it's still authenticating you with Docker Hub. But okay.
No, it's trying to pull that.
Don't quite understand why it's trying to push your image though, because we did say that we want to skip. What we can do is we can add a property called skip push to the app, and that should definitely skip the push. Like when we say that in the initialization period, you know what? I'm not quite sure about that. I thought it would be saved somewhere. It probably is saved somewhere because we did skip the push initially.
Well, we did configure it that way when we ran the init. But
yeah,
I did
exactly.
an autocomplete here, and there is a skip push flag that wasn't set. So I've kind of maybe that will help. I don't know. I'm
Let's
guessing.
try. Let's try it. No, same. Aha. Okay. Well, all right.
Yeah, it seems happier now. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see if that works, because we didn't change the image name in deployment, so we will see. I'm learning as well. Yeah, probably need to change that in deployment as well, because it's still trying to deploy. So there's in line 48. Yeah, exactly. Makes sense, because we're telling the Helm chart that we are like, it should use this image. We're putting the values in there, so yeah, deployment should fail.
I mean, this is just Kubernetes, so I could actually run. Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah.
Oh no, error pulled image.
Which image is it trying to load?
I know.
Maybe we should figure that out.
It's because I'm using Minikube. And we'll need to source. I can't remember how to do this. It's been so long. The Docker env, because I'm actually we'll be building this into. Computers are hard. Yeah.
This is very interesting, because I don't understand why we're running into this now when it worked before. Like, it's the fact that we are. Because I would have expected that we deploy the regular, like the image that we built, and then we exchange the image with the dev image. So we should have run into this problem before, but I might be wrong. I'm obviously wrong because it didn't happen as I would have thought it would. Or like if you're still listening, you can explain it, right?
Yeah, it's not working. What have I done wrong? Control describe pod. Yeah, so I was trying to pull this image.
Which it should. Can you check your images? Yeah. I think this is the right one. It should be. I mean, we're building it correctly, apparently. Empty, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
All right.
Is there a
Let's.
DevSpace delete everything? Can I? Will we?
Yes, there's a DevSpace purge, and that will. I probably won't delete images from your Docker registry though, but we can.
Well, it's just because we set the Docker, the Minikube Docker environment halfway through. So now that we have it,
Yeah.
although it depends the DevSpace. Let's try. Okay. So if we do a build, it's all cached, which means I think this image is in the right place.
It should be.
So let's try a DevSpace dev again.
Let's try DevSpace. Yeah, okay. I mean, we could try DevSpace deploy because the way that I understand it. Oh, okay. So you broke it. It wasn't me. Good.
I think it was just because, yeah, the Minikube environment wasn't my local Docker environment, and I think DevSpace was working against my Docker desktop and not my Minikube. And yeah, there was a weird thing.
Okay. No, yeah, that makes sense.
But this looks like we have something running. So.
We have, but it doesn't do what I was hoping it would do, which is just start your browser immediately. Oh, DevSpace start not found. What did you do? What happened?
Is it because we're not using the dev image anymore? So like this stuff isn't mounted in?
No. Well, because we're syncing it, so we should be like syncing everything over. Like literally, I tested this yesterday. Wait a second.
Oh yeah, look, waiting for initial thing to complete, sync work, and then.
Yeah, so that includes the DevSpace start. Did you rename it or something?
I don't think so.
No, it's there. Huh. Okay.
But we did change a whole bunch of stuff in this file.
We did, but not. Yeah. Because, okay. So we're saying open a terminal, use the following command to start it. I don't think I'm not quite sure whether our DevSpace containers have the DevSpace start as H in there. They shouldn't, in theory.
Well, I'll take a look. It's probably something I've
done. Thank you. It's clearly not that our quick starts don't work properly. All right. Let's okay, just to make sure that we're back, can you reintroduce the dev image line? I just want to make sure that we didn't change it to the degree that nothing works anymore. Otherwise, we have to reset everything, I think.
Yeah, it seems okay with that.
Okay, that looks like, yeah. Okay, so if you run, I'm wondering if maybe what we would need to do is really not open the terminal. If like the terminal is kind of tied to the dev image, but then we could take a look at the documentation.
Okay. Well, I think we can go back to the docs and work through that. But just while we're here, right? And the DevSpace thing, something caught my eye, which was these commands here. Like I mentioned migrations earlier, not knowing this was sat in the DevSpace.yaml. So it looks like there's already the ability to run arbitrary commands. So
Yes.
is that just DevSpace run? Yeah.
Run. Yeah, exactly. So you could run any kinds of commands, anything that you need to do to set up your development environment in the way that you need it, and then do a DevSpace run. Exactly. And yeah, it could be anything that you would run. So this is where we kind of replace makefiles, or like supply makefiles if you want to. If you love your makefiles, like you can still like do both. If you go back to the DevSpace YAML, I think this is now a good place to talk about the pipelines. So we scroll all the way up. So we have these pipelines, and this is like something that we changed in the latest release. So we released DevSpace 6 like a couple of weeks ago. So we now have these pipelines that you can completely modify the way that you want to. There is a default behavior for the pipelines. I think it's in depth explained in the docs, but then you can like run the default behavior by just like run default pipeline or something. But basically here, when you run DevSpace dev, which is a short form for DevSpace run pipeline dev, this is what will happen. So you will run all the dependencies, of which we have none currently. You will create the deployments. So then that would be the deployments part that starts in line 28. And then you start the dev mode for one or more units. So we named everything app here. You could give them different names. You could like say like all of them, or you could just like have a couple. So we could like have start dev app db or whatever you want. And yeah, so similarly in deployments, we run all the dependencies, we build all the images, and we create the deployments. Oh, see, so in DevSpace Dev, we don't build the images. Aha. So if I had read this earlier, so this is why we didn't run into this issue earlier, because we don't build the images because we're just like using the dev image.
Got it.
Okay. And yeah, you could change whatever you need here. You could add commands, right? Like here you could like add the migrate db command into the dev pipeline or the deploy pipeline. And then this way, if you are someone who's like completely new, just being onboarded to the team, all you need to know is that you have to run DevSpace dev, and you don't need to know like, oh, you have to run this script and then that, but only in these circumstances and all of that. That's kind of the thing that we're trying to do here, to just give you like one command, and then your development environment is just all shiny and perfect, which
Nice.
we've seen that works perfectly.
Awesome. All right. Now I understand pipelines. I hadn't really worked that out from the start when we were looking at this, that dev and deploy were just pipelines. I mean, I'm assuming, and I like to make assumptions, but if I copied
Yeah.
dev, uh, let's say performance test or something, or performance,
Mm.
I could just run that, like with DevSpace. What was it? Pipeline run performance, and this is actually
It's run dash pipeline.
oh, sorry.
It's DevSpace run dash. That's one command, one dash pipeline. Yeah.
Ah, nice. Okay, cool. I like that. So I can start to build up and
Excellent.
build up all the pipelines for my application, because it might be that
Yeah.
developers just want a short feedback loop when they're making changes to HTML, CSS, maybe some code, but QA engineers may want to actually run automated browser tests against the, and like maybe there's other
Yeah.
people, machine learning people
Exactly.
that want to start importing data. I don't know. Like I'm sure there's lots of pipelines in a modern application these days. So.
Yeah. Exactly. And it gives you the freedom to just like um, use the bits that you want to use. And there's also the cool feature, which is you can import other DevSpace YAMLs into your DevSpace YAML. It's not showcased in this one, but conceivably you could have like a shared DevSpace library with these custom commands and pipelines. And then, I want to import that so I can just like use it without having to necessarily know exactly. So I could like define these like custom functions, custom pipelines, custom commands, and you can import them and use them, but you can also override them. So if you have like some kind of testing setup, Um, and there's some functions I want to use, but others I want to just like do differently on my machine or in my project, then I can just override individual functions or pipelines or commands. So that's super cool because you can like build this library of like shared stuff.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like, most dev shops that I speak to, we think we're in this world of polyglotism where we are writing in Rust and Go and Pony and C and all our app. Like we've got 50 different languages and 50 different services, but really most shops
Yeah.
have one or two languages that they really invest in and build up the knowledge within their organization and within their team. And I can see where you would want to have a consolidation of all your dev space pipelines and configuration and a central location so that when you update that
Yeah.
once, every team can take advantage of that right away with the import statement. So I think that's a really clever move. Like that's a nice feature.
Yeah, it's also new in DevSpace 6. And really the goal is really that you can just focus on your development. Like you should not be bogged down in like, oh, like all this knowledge that you have to have, especially when you start in a new place or you switch teams or whatever, you have to know all these like secret knowledge things about like this is here, but you have to like press this button first and then you can like do that. So yeah, all
Do you,
this is trying to kind of cut down on that.
do you see a future where there's a dev space hub and you have these pre-configured dev spaces for Go? Because I'm assuming they don't differ likely, and for Rust and for PHP and for JavaScript and Java, or do you think this is very
Yeah,
much a
you
thing that
mean
organizations do?
I would like to see that. I mean, DevSpace is an open source project, so any way that the community can contribute and help each other out, make things better, share their best practices, I think that's a good thing. I know there was once an attempt to do like something like DevSpace Cloud. I think that was the attempt to do a share, like a service offering though. Um, right now, most of our customers, as I understand it, for them, it's more like building up their internal platform, if you will. So their focus is not necessarily on like open sourcing whatever stuff they got going. And I guess like in probably the overwhelming amount of cases, it really is like very organizational specific stuff that you're like trying to put in there. I could see it. I don't think that's where our current focus is right now, but it would be cool.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
nothing's stopping you from just creating a repository and making it public, because as you can see, you can import a public Git, like any repository really. So you could just do it, put it, on GitHub, and then everyone could pull it from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. There's two things in my head that I've been kind of holding on to while we kind of explore a little bit. So I wonder if we
Yeah.
could touch on both of those. One of them was, well, one of them's right in front of me. Like, so I see some sort of IDE integration. So I'll come back to that in a second.
Yes.
The other thing I saw was when we ran DevSpace, there was a UI command. Is this going to give me
Yeah.
like a shiny interface or?
It's an interface. I'm not sure how shiny it is. I mean, that's like subjective, I would say. It, oh, it's there. Yeah.
I can change my
Again,
kube.
this is the idea that maybe people just don't feel super comfortable working on the CLI, so you could like. So this is for like checking the logs of your containers and like not managing your containers, but being able to debug them and like try things out in them. Like my honest personal opinion is that it could do more. Right now, it's just kind of like, yeah, just like a little bit shinier version of what you could also get from the CLI. I think it could be much better, right? I think there's like as I mentioned before, and I would like to look at that maybe at some point later, as well as like you can define dependencies. So if you have an application that depends on like a microservice that depends on other microservices, you can define that. And I would really like to see like a dependency tree, a visual one, right? I think that would be a super cool feature. Again, Oleg, if you're listening, please put that in the feature backlog, because I think that is something that I've heard from a lot of people when I was like, I was a consultant for a long time, where people were just like, I just want to know what my applications depend on and which, like, what the actual like tree is. Um, yeah, I think that would be cool. But right now, it's just like looking at logs, looking at stacks.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I guess you can run commands from there as well.
All right. Well,
Um,
the other thing I seen then was the VS Code integration. So I'm curious what this
yes.
adds.
this is super cool. So I highly recommend to check out the example project. And what it will do is it will open that SSH server, and then it will open your VS Code if you have remote, this remote SSH extension. If you have that installed, it will then open VS Code, which is directly connected to the container, and that is really awesome.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm just going to go with default namespace, but
Yeah.
yes, I'm sure. Oh, let's see.
Yeah, that's just a bit of a walk through for you to see what's happening.
Okay. So we're just waiting for the container to come up right now.
We're just waiting for the, yeah.
So this is going to spin up a VS Code for me, or use a VS Code with remote. All right. Okay. Yeah.
As long as you have the VS Code CLI, because it's starting it from the shell. So I'm not sure if you have that though.
Yeah, but it's failing. It says I can't drag it on. Oh, can I? Yeah.
Can't read it? What does it say?
Oh no, it's went over here.
I couldn't read the error message. What did it say?
It said it couldn't connect to the remote, but I don't know why.
All right. Are you willing to share what's in your etc host? Because I think I had a problem earlier, and like an older version of DevSpace, that we did some stuff there, and then you had to remove that, so it works now. I'm just looking for the Slack exchange where I had that explained to me. So because in your in the SSH config, it wasn't in the etc host. Sorry, there should be like an entry for this quick start stuff. Yeah. Okay, so there's my app DevSpace, and actually that looks right, because what we should want to see is so the quick start, that's right. I don't know if like my app is that the okay. Do you still get that error, by the way? I'm assuming you have that on another.
Well, I removed the old one. Let's try again.
Yeah. And this is some great user research right now.
Could not establish connection to my app.devspace.
Can you try to just SSH to my app.devspace without the, VS Code?
Yeah, that didn't work either. Oh.
Bad configuration option DevSpace. Huh. Interesting.
That's a comment. Oh, no, it's not running. Huh.
Wait, but this is not even the right port. Oh, we have 10637. I think the other one is probably... Oh, can we just remove the other one here? The one above?
The one above.
Yes.
I think that's like a magic comment, isn't it? I'm going to leave that. I think it's being used to parse and add stuff to that file. So I've probably been breaking this demo because of that. So.
Yeah, let's just again say that this is something you broke and clearly not some weird behavior that we haven't anticipated.
No, it failed.
Okay.
No matching keys.
I'm just going to... Okay, then instead, let's look at the DevSpace YAML to see what it should do.
I know why this isn't working.
Oh, you know?
my SSH sock is hooked up to one password, and you're probably adding them to a different agent. DevSpace will be adding it to the
Uh,
default SSH agent, so I don't think it's going to work with
Probably,
Apache.
yeah, probably. Okay. Well, then let's still look at the DevSpace YAML, and if you at home try it out yourself, and you don't have this weird setup with your SSH key, it will work. Because again, I tried it out yesterday, so it should still be working. Oh, this is the wrong DevSpace. We need to go to the VS Code example DevSpace, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, if you scroll down a little bit, this is very similar to what we just saw. So in the sync part,
Yep.
yeah, we're just like doing some Git magic stuff there. I think it's in the pipeline, in the dev pipeline, probably what's happening, the interesting part, I'm guessing. So scroll down a little bit. Oh yeah, there it is. So we run the default pipeline of dev, which is pretty much what we saw. So deploying stuff. And then this is just one command, right? Because the SSH server has been created in the SSH part, what we can do here is we just start VS Code with the code command, and then basically say like the folder that you should open is this like remote container that you can connect through SSH remote. I'm not quite sure how the VS Code remote thing works, but it seems like this is just a URL that you can just feed into the code
Nice.
command. So this would be super cool if it worked.
Yeah, that's my fault, I think, just because of my weird setup.
Yeah, but like this, again, if you just want to try it out at home, I'm sure if there is a CLI for like IntelliJ or something that would allow you to similarly just like open a remote folder, you could probably do that as well here. And yeah, it's really convenient. I'm guessing there's probably other stuff that we can also do with VS Code, but I haven't checked it out yet.
All right. Well, we have a few comments. So apparently, I'm the
Cool.
ultimate product tester because on every hands-on session, I managed to break something. Yeah, thank you.
Well, you're not breaking something. That's the thing. You just have a very particular setup, which is good to know. I mean, we're probably not going to fix it because it doesn't work for you because you're like one of the 0.1% of people who do it the way that you do, possibly.
Yeah, yeah. I spend too much time playing with myself. So if I just left it alone, maybe more stuff would work. I think I definitely am the lowest common denominator here. But we,
You pretty much know what you're doing, which is like not necessarily. I mean, I'm not going to say that our users don't know what they're doing, but that's obviously we're targeting people who might not know exactly all the ins and outs about like SSH connections or networking or like how to set up stuff in Kubernetes. So yeah, we're focusing on the group of people who just like do the standard stuff more than like very specific edge cases, which is like probably what most companies are doing.
okay. We also have a question from Russell who is saying, it just went off the screen, but I'll read this one out. Is there any support for multiple copies? So this is where Russell is assuming there's a shared development cluster that is being used by multiple people, and they may want to work on the same service at the same time. So I guess the devspace.yaml would be the same. How would that work?
Yeah, so this is where you could use dependencies, for example. So let's say we're the two of us are working on different services that depend on each other. I can define your service as a dependency, and you can define my service as a dependency. And then on the cluster, it's either a config map or a secret. I'm not quite sure about that, but it's saved on the cluster. And DevSpace will see, oh, there is a instance of this dependency running, so I don't need to deploy it. I'm just going to use this instant here as a dependency for my microservice. And if you change something, it will be reflected in my microservice because I'm using your dependency. So as long as we're on the same cluster, this will work out of the box, which is pretty awesome.
But I guess if two people wanted to work on the same service, they would have to use different namespaces to make sure that would work and didn't.
Yeah. That is not, and I don't think it should work, honestly. I think if two people work on the same cluster on the same project at the same time, it's just generally not a good idea.
Yeah, use namespaces, keep them separate, I guess.
Yeah. Or vClusters, which is another product that we develop.
Yeah, we've done a session on vCluster, but it has been a long time, so I'll need to reach out to you
Yeah.
and Rich and get something else on the cards for that, because it'd be good to see what's going on in vCluster. But that's not what we're doing today. All right, so I really like this. DevSpace gives me something I can put into Git, which is like the step one for all tools. So if I'm going to use it, I have to be able to store the config in Git. We have a YAML definition for describing how to build and ship our application. And it sets up all of that plumbing that just gives us this interactive environment with port forwarding and a potential debugger, which I'm not fancying my chances of my machine getting to work. So,
as I said, I also haven't used the debugger feature, so I couldn't even help you troubleshoot it, probably.
Well, no, but I think what we've done is we're able to show people that this tool exists, how to get started, and how
Yeah.
it can be adapted to different languages and such. Now, I like that the documentation kind of has. I mean, these are all pretty popular languages: Node, Python, Java, Ruby, Golang,
Yeah.
PHP, and SP. So, people should go check it out and let us know how you get on. Feel free to
Sure.
leave comments or reach out to either of us directly on Twitter, and it's always fun to share.
Yeah.
Is there anything else
Oh,
that
and
we haven't covered?
I think there's like this function sections, which is like a way that you can define like your own custom functions. But I think this is like, I don't know how interesting this is. It's just another thing that you can define. I do want to just give people the chance. If you have more in-depth questions, especially like more technical questions, we have a public Slack, which is, you can see that on the top right. And you can join that Slack and ask your questions. And, like if you have any feature requests, maybe just drop them in there. We have some lovely engineers there who will help you out. Apart from that, I think we covered most of it. Most of the like standard stuff. If you want to do something more specific, the docs will hopefully help you. If you want to contribute, as I said, it's open source, so feel free to check out the GitHub repository. And even if you're just changing a typo in the docs, that's also helpful. So feel free to just send in some pull requests or something. Thanks, Russ. Have a great weekend too.
Well, I mean, we've taken a good look at what DevSpace offers. I hope that people's interest is piqued and they go kick the tires on it. But maybe you could share. I didn't realize it was on DevSpace 6, but I'm assuming the work is ongoing and continue to improve. Like, what's on the roadmap for DevSpace? What are you working on next?
You're literally asking the wrong person for that. I do not know.
Stuff and things. That's all you have to say. Yeah, lots of cool stuff, lots of good things. Just
Oh yeah, we're gonna make it even better. We're gonna make it work on Rawkode's computer.
All right, awesome. Well, I think that's us then. I'm looking forward to catching up with you in Edinburgh for Cube Huddle. So I will see you then.
Super
We
excited.
have lots of karaoke. I hope everyone has a great weekend. I hope you have a great weekend. Any last words before I say goodbye?
Just be kind to each other, and thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you all soon, and bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Rawkode.